Death Stranding's new trailer just dropped a few days ago, and my god is it gorgeous, bizarre, and all kinds of cryptic. You would think we'd know more about the game by the third trailer, but some would say that it only left us with more questions than answers. However, one way in which the new trailer differs from the other two is the fact that we're finally given some sort of synopsis for the game. It wasn't clearly laid out and it took a little bit of digging, but it's there. While there are obviously a lot of visual elements littered throughout the trailer worth analyzing on their own, for this video I want to focus on the dialogue spoken by Norman Reedus' character Sam at the beginning and end of the trailer. Here's what he says.
Once there was an explosion, a bang which gave birth to time and space. Once there was an explosion, a bang which set a planet spinning in that space. Once there was an explosion, a bang which gave rise to life as we know it. And then came the next explosion, an explosion that will be our last.
This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is your synopsis of Death Stranding. Sam refers to 4 explosions, 3 of them that already happened and 1 that's coming. Now, at a glance, people will assume that the first 3 explosions all reference one event, the Big Bang, which culminated in the creation of the universe as we know it. However, each of the 3 explosions actually refer to a different event throughout the course of our universe's history. So let's begin by talking about the first explosion, a bang which gave birth to time and space. This one is undoubtedly referring to our universe's ground zero, if you will, the Big Bang, which happened over 13.7 billion years ago. Now, it's worth noting that the Big Bang isn't a literal explosion, but rather a rapid expansion of the universe itself. During the Big Bang, there was a period called inflation, in which the universe expanded incredibly rapidly within the span of just a fraction of a second, which resulted in the universe becoming very hot. But as expansion decelerated, the universe began to cool down, and it was from the resulting energy that matter began to form. The first elements to ever be created in the universe were hydrogen and helium, and throughout the course of 400 million years, giant clouds of these primordial elements coalesced through gravity to form the very first stars. From there, heavier elements were synthesized within the stars themselves and then spread as dust throughout the universe through supernovas, an explosion of titanic proportion that occurs with the death of a star. So through this continual cycle of birth and death, stars essentially created all of the other elements in the universe. Then, as dust from these newly formed elements coalesced, planets began to form, and eventually entire solar systems, including our own. And among the planets that formed from the birth and death of stars, from the resulting supernovas, and the gathering of dust from newly formed elements was, of course, planet Earth. This is what I believe that Sam is referring to when he speaks of a bang which set a planet spinning in that space. Notice how Sam doesn't refer to planets in general, he uses the word planet as a singular, referring of course to the planet that us humans inhabit. So the first explosion Sam is referring to was the Big Bang that created space and time. And the second explosion he's referring to is supernovas, which created the elements to form planets, including our own. Which finally brings us to the third explosion, a bang which gave rise to life as we know it. This, ladies and gentlemen, is referring to none other than the Cambrian Explosion, which is a term used to describe the time period from 500 million years ago when animals diversified rapidly throughout the course of 20 to 25 million years. While the earliest known life dates as far back as 3.9 billion years ago, it was during the Cambrian Explosion from 500 million years ago that organisms went from rudimentary multicellular entities to the vast variety of mammals, amphibians, birds, fish, reptiles, and arthropods that we see and know today. This metaphorical explosion was very much a bang which gave rise to life as we know it, and among that life is, of course, us, Homo sapiens. So the bottom line is that as Sam is going through these 3 explosions, he's not just talking about the Big Bang. He's walking us through 3 monumental events in the history of our universe that reshaped the very concept of existence. Which finally brings us to the fourth explosion that Sam talks about at the end of the trailer, the one that he says will be our last. This is your synopsis for what Death Stranding is about, or the closest thing to one that we have right now. Death Stranding is about a fourth explosion in the history of mankind and possibly the universe that's comparable to the Big Bang that created time and space, to a supernova which created elements and planets, and to the Cambrian Explosion which created life. Except this one won't be an explosion of creation, but one of destruction. It's an upcoming cataclysm that could spell the end for the human race or life itself, according to Sam. Now, it's worth noting that in this quote, Sam states that the next explosion already came by using the past tense, but also that the impending cataclysm hasn't happened by using the future tense when saying will be our last. So I believe that Death Stranding will take place amidst this mysterious fourth explosion, and us, the players, will be witnessing the imminent cataclysm through Sam's perspective. As for what this fourth explosion is exactly, well, that's just the question, isn't it? What event could be so epic in scale that Sam would go as far as comparing it to the Big Bang, supernovas, and the Cambrian Explosion? My guess is that it's related to the arrival of multi-dimensional beings, or beings of a higher dimension, who have the supernatural ability to turn the very concept of life and death on its head. Keep in mind that the fourth explosion doesn't have to be a literal explosion. While supernovas are explosions that occur from the death of a star, the Big Bang was less of an explosion and more of just a rapid expansion, while the Cambrian Explosion was more of a time period of accelerated evolution. So the arrival of beings who have evolved to traverse across dimensions that are unperceivable by human beings could very well be the next big event, the next big explosion that will reshape the very meaning of existence. What these beings want, what the purpose of their arrival is, well, those are questions that I'm sure can only be answered once we get our hands on the game. But until then, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and theories are in the comments below. And don't worry folks, a proper analysis of the whole trailer is incoming. But now that we have some semblance of a synopsis for the game, finally, I felt it was worth talking about separately. Anyway, with that, I would like to end this Death Stranding analysis. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you were intrigued by this video, and if you're looking forward to more Death Stranding news updates and analysis, consider supporting me on Patreon to help this channel stay independent and self-sustained. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out!